Joe Biden threatened to wwithhold arms.
You want to make sure. You want to make sure that when Trump is reelected, can get away. He can get away with getting rid of the Department of Education.
All I would point out is that it's not my party that's imprisoning its political opponents right now. So if we're going to throw that accusation about.
I was about to say one of the key tenets of fascism is you imprison your political opponents. Trump said, my revenge will be success.
Michael Knowles destroys and outright embarrasses this liberal commentator in a debate over Donald Trump. All right, folks, if you enjoy the content, be sure to hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. But I think today is an interesting exercise in why Democrats have seemingly abandoned the label of convicted felon in regards to Donald Trump. Because you remember, after the New York conviction, it seemed like Democrats were going to be running on this all the way till the election. Donald Trump is a convicted felon by a jury of his peers. How could you, the American people, support that? And you noticed it never really stuck. I think for a number of reasons. Firstly, because Americans largely don't care. Secondly, I think a lot of Americans genuinely do believe the trial was politically motivated, even if they're not the biggest fans of Donald Trump. But thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, as you'll see today, most Americans do not even understand the original charges against Donald Trump. What did he actually do? And a big reason for that is because the Democrats, the liberal side, still cannot even accurately articulate what the charges even are. I mean, Alvin Bragg never really made it clear exactly what Trump's alleged crime even was. The prosecution certainly failed to do so. But check it out, even this liberal commentator that Michael Knowles grills, and again, keep in mind, she is on a panel to talk about the Trump legal case, does not even know the crimes that Trump committed. The blanket line is just, well, it's Donald Trump, so it must be a crime. Take a listen here, because this is truly, truly hilarious to witness.
That there was really a misdemeanor that Trump committed. So my fellow panelist here is celebrating that the rule of law has been vindicated and overturned 234 years of American legal tradition. I would challenge her to see if she could possibly articulate how and what crime Trump committed, because so far Alvin Bragg, the DA, has failed to do so. The judge in the case, Judge Merchan, has failed to do so. And they can't do it because Trump didn't commit any of the crimes for which he's been convicted.
Well, let's just ask quickly before I go to Kevin. Francesca, just on that point, what crime did Trump commit?
It was financial crimes. It was white collar crimes. That is exactly what they charged him. He was convicted on.
What was the crime?
It's New York State law.
I understand. What was the crime?
It is New.
Francesca, actually.
It is
hang on, Mark.
He just got convicted on 34 counts.
Francesca, what was the crime?
Of cooking the actual books.
What was the crime?
You are not allowed. So you are not allowed to use your own financial, your own money to pay off somebody. And then he logged it as something different. He logged it as just a regular payment, but he was actually paying off this star to keep quiet, which if he hadn't been running for president would not have mattered, but he was. And so it impacted campaign finance laws in New York State. Okay, that is what Juan Merchan just oversaw this. Alvin Bragg brought these charges because Michael Cohen, his sister, was already sentenced to 3 years to do it.
Let's just go before Kevin. I'll be very, very, very patient. I will come to you.
Look, I'm no expert. Let me just say, hang on, Michael.
You are no expert. That's fine. The campaign finance law is a federal law.
Hang on, anyway, Francesca. I want to go to Mark. You're the lawyer. Is anything Francesca just said, is that actually the crime?
Okay, now keep in mind before we play the response of the lawyer, if I remember this panel correctly, the lawyer is anti-Trump. Okay, so he is politically on her side in this case. But take a listen.
Look, let me just say, I like Francesca a lot. And we probably agree on 80% of our worldviews. However, Francesca, the way you just described it, call me afterwards and I'll educate you, because that's not what happened. There was no theory that was given to the to the jurors. The jurors were told it could have been campaign finance, it could have been tax, it could have been false books. They were told they didn't have to specify, and specifically told they did not have to agree unanimously. That's what irks me. Lifelong Democrat, no fan of Trump, never voted for Trump, never will. But I will tell you, as somebody who has spent his entire career kind of taking on unpopular causes and holding the government accountable, I have to tell you, I do that for a reason. And the reason is this kind of shenanigans, and that's the best light I can spin it on in the criminal courts, has no place in a federal election.
I don't mean to pick on Francesca too much here, but it's very telling that even the liberals who are going on television to defend this ruling have to Google in the breaks to figure out what the crime was. and even then, I'm sorry to say, misrepresent what the actual supposed crime was. The reason here that this has to take... Well, excuse me one second, Francesca. I'll just finish my point real quickly.
Books. That's the same thing.
Yeah. It's not a felony, not a crime. But anyway, that's a point for another time. The reason why even the great defenders of this conviction can't... yes, to you as well. The reason that they can't articulate this is because it's not really a crime. That's why they had to upend 234 years of precedent for this. And it gets back to a point that you made earlier, Piers, and that you made, Kevin, which is that Alvin Bragg really overplayed his hand. Sure, he overplayed his hand to some degree, but what else were they going to do? Donald Trump was always going to be the Republican nominee in 2024. A lot of people feel that he was gypped in 2020. He's the biggest guy in the party. It was going to happen. And Trump poses a real threat to the liberal establishment. He's not a Mitt Romney type Republican. He has different views from the so-called uniparty on things like trade, on things like immigration, and things like foreign policy and war. Trump posed a major threat. That's why they took such extraordinary measures for the last 8 years to take this guy out. They weren't able to do it politically. They weren't even really able to do it at the ballot box. So what's left? The only thing left to do is to try to throw him in prison so that he can't campaign for the election. I agree, it's backfiring.
This is not a federal case, Michael. You know that. It's not even a federal case. Why do you think that it's not a DOJ case? It's not a Biden case. It's not a Merrick Garland thing.
All right, first of all, I think most people know this by now, but one of the top guys at the Biden DOJ resigned right before this case to go work in the state of New York on this case. All right. So, this whole idea that, oh my gosh, Biden had nothing to do with it. It was dumb back then. It's dumb now. But even then, okay, even if you want to somehow make the argument that Biden didn't do this case, okay, but his party did, right? His party did. This Democrat state, Democrat president. So yes, it can still be politically motivated either way. That's besides the point. The greater point here is she still can't really articulate what crime Donald Trump committed. But again, that also tells you a lot. I think this panel really tells you a lot about why they've dropped even running with the convicted felon thing. Like, did Biden even bring that up at the debate? I don't believe so. Largely because this is such a losing argument for them, because anyone with like legal background, as you see the lawyer up there, even though he's a liberal, anti-Trump Democrat, he knows it was bogus, right? He knows like it was just, I can't even really defend it. But then the NPC liberal commentators who want to try to run cover instead, they can't articulate and they make themselves look like fools when they're talking about this. So either way, that's why you've noticed this whole thing is basically fallen out of the news, because they just know they really can't defend it. But anyways.
It's New York state law. So the idea that this is somehow politically motivated is all made up in your head, because what you do
DOJ is
on
also
your show
prosecuting
every
Donald
day
Trump twice.
is you groom your audience for fascism, and you set them up for a complete takeover of the DOJ. This is all about allowing Trump to get away with any crime he wants, as you sort of slighted and sort of, laid out very like nonchalantly just a little bit ago. He was impeached twice. Doesn't really matter that he tried to blackmail the leader of Ukraine into digging up non-existent dirt on Joe Biden, but that doesn't matter to you
Joe
or
Biden
your
threatened to withhold arms.
You want to make sure. You want to make sure that when Trump is reelected,
me of fascism.
he can get away. He can. he can
Francesca,
get away with getting rid of the Department of Education.
All I would point out is that it's not my party that's imprisoning its political opponents right now. So if we're going to throw that accusation about
I was about to say, one of the key tenets of fascism is you imprison your political opponents. Trump said, my revenge will...
Steve Bannon, you know, Trump's a felon. There are many other examples.
will be success. These are bad people. And he said, it's going to be success will be the best revenge. Do you think that's how this plays out?
It's the only way that it can play out, because as I think most of us on the panel have accepted, there's not going to be some fair legal conclusion to all of this. The only way that this plays out is if the political system in America is not wholly corrupt. It's only substantially corrupt. Biden smirks when he jokes about jailing his political opponents, but it's not wholly corrupt, and the American people can bring enough civil pressure to bear to push this guy back into the Oval Office. That is going to be the only way that this ends.
If he doesn't win the election, Michael will absolutely respect the results of
Well, you know what he'll say, Francesca?
Correct?
And this time with good reason. He'll say, hey, for 2 months of the election year, when I should have been campaigning, I was being put through a criminal court trial over having sex with a porn star 20 years ago. And
you know, even on that front, I'm so tired of this line from Democrats that like, oh, Trump's not going to accept the election results. That's also, by the way, guys, it's very ironic because they're also panicking right now that they're the ones going to lose the election, and the polls are showing that. And I'm not saying to be complacent by any stretch of the imagination, but let's be real about this, okay? We know for a fact that Democrats and the liberal side will not accept the election results if Donald Trump wins. Okay, already a given. You know why? They didn't do it in 2016, and people say, oh, that's not the same. Hillary and Trump is not the same. Really? Because in both cases, there was civil unrest, okay? So people somehow forget back in 2016 that like Antifa and all this stuff. And by the way, the civil unrest lasted long beyond the inauguration. It went on for an entire 4 years. That was, by their definition, an insurrection. But beyond that, I really think if Trump wins in 2024, their reaction's going to be 10 times worse than what it was in 2016. So I'm so tired of this line that like, oh, you're not going to accept the results of the election, even though we're the ones losing. It's like, okay, if you guys end up losing, we know what you guys are going to do. But a bigger point here, as you can see, very hilariously, she comes on the panel to talk about the Donald Trump legal case, and she cannot define what the crime is. And even the lawyer who is anti-Trump corrects her on it. So, you know, and then she just starts screaming about fascism and Pride Month and something like that. I don't know. Not a great representation of the Biden campaign, I will say that. Until next time, though, folks, be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and peace.